to you. It is October 15th and time for this week's Friday Funnies. And there are only 18 shopping days left until Election Day. So the politicians are out there throwing everything they got at us. Personally, I plan on voting on November 2nd, even though I know I won't be happy with the outcome no matter who wins. You see, I dislike all politicians, and I think an election is the wrong way to select our leaders. I think we need a political version of Survivor, where we take all of the candidates and we drop them all off on a deserted island. And then that's the end of the game. I figure once we get all of our candidates and politicians on a deserted island, possibly we could get something done in this country. And speaking of getting something done, how about the rescue of those miners down in Chile? That was amazing. Now they need to take that big tube thing and stick it right in the middle of the Capitol building and start sucking out senators. Then I think we'll all be saved. Enough said, here's this week's news. Well, this first story made me giggle, primarily because I have a mind like a 12-year-old boy. But in Salisbury, Massachusetts, the town purchased a new sewage pump-out boat. They use this boat to go from boat to boat in the harbor and pump out their onboard sewage systems. That's a fun job if you can get it. Anyhow, the town decided to hold a contest to see what to name the boat. And some of the entrants were Pooh Bear, Pumpty Dumpty, the Poop Sloop, and the Dung Dinghy. Now, none of those clever names won. They went with the Downwinder, because downwind is pretty much where you want to be from a poop sloop or a dung dinghy. I didn't enter the contest, but had I done it, I would have entered something more lyrical, as in this: we do number 2. All right, we've all heard of a wild goose chase. Well, this week a rather inebriated man in Wisconsin went on one. After a day of heavy drinking, a 40-year-old man from Wausau, Wisconsin, spotted a one-legged goose. And he thought that this would be a particularly tasty goose with roasted, so he started to chase it. Now, a one-legged goose certainly can't run very far, so it flew a short distance into the lake, and the drunk went into the lake after him in October in Wisconsin. Well, shortly after entering the frigid water, the drunk guy was both sober and overcome. He had to be rescued by police, who then arrested him for, I guess, goose chasing. As far as the one-legged goose is concerned, he's doing fine and swimming around the lake in circles. And now it's time for our Dumbass of the Week award. This week, the DAOTWA goes to Brian Hartman of St. Cloud, Florida. Brian was arrested this week for growing 17 marijuana plants, with some of them as high as 7 feet tall on his property. And you're thinking, well, how did they catch him? Well, he was growing the plants in his front yard, in clear view of the street. So when the police came by to arrest him, they asked him, why in the world did you grow these in the front yard? He said, well, I had to, man. The backyard, all the space is taken up by the meth lab. And finally, when police arrived at an apartment complex in Portland, Oregon this week, they were told that the woman in 2B was going nuts, and she was outside yelling at the building. Then she went inside and kicked out her screen window. And so the cops picked up the screen window, and they went up to 2B and knocked on the door. And when the door opened, they were treated to the sight of a 61-year-old woman who was topless and waving about a meat cleaver. And she's yelling at them and swinging the meat cleaver. Sorry about that. And fortunately, no one was injured. About the third time she swung it, she got caught up in the screen window that they brought back up, and she surrendered and was taken away. But the main thing I ask about this story is, if you are attacked by a topless woman with a meat cleaver, where do you look first? Hey, that's all I have for you this week in celebration of the rescue of the miners down in Chile on this somewhat chilly day. Why don't you have yourself a nice bowl of chili? And I'll see you next time.